Hey folks, this is Best in Slot with some brand new Jurassic World Dominion news. Quite literally hot off the presses a couple of days ago. Empire posted a little preview, a little snippet of an upcoming interview with Colin Treverrow, of course the director of Jurassic World Dominion and indeed the helmsman for Jurassic World in general. And they showed us this image and we got to see the Atrociraptor for the first time in film and what it's going to look like. They also provided some, a little bit of preview of the interview itself and said, come back on Thursday and we'll have the full interview. Well, they do. Now, they don't have like a proper e-reader online, so what I did was I went and got the Empire app. I bought the issue, then took a screenshot of the article and then uploaded the article to my computer, and that's how we've got all these images. So let's check out the interview. Unfortunately, there's nothing too groundbreaking, but there's some cool stuff in here in general. Let's check it out. Must go faster. Director Colin Treverrow briefs us on his Dinosaur Run-Amok Trilogy closer. In Jurassic World, Owen Grady rode a motorbike alongside his raptor pack. It doesn't look like he's having such a good time in this image. What's going on? It's a sequence set in Malta, and the picture speaks for itself. It's Chris Pratt being chased by an Atrociraptor. And if they catch up, he's gonna die. I can tell you that. But they're not going to catch up, are they, Colin? In Dominion, you're letting all of the dinosaurs out of the toy box. They're now loose all over the planet. How much fun is that? It's fun. It's the thing I've been waiting to do this whole time, and it really did take 2 movies of storytelling for this one to work. Now that we've justified how this is possible, how dinosaurs could be forced to coexist with humans on the planet in the same way that animals do, we can create sequences like this. And why Malta? I think when people think of what Dominion might be, they're assuming it's going to be a T-Rex walking through New York City. We made a lot of different choices, and one of them is that I wanted to see dinosaurs around old stones, around something that's ancient to us, just to illustrate how much more ancient these things are. Also, the Atrociraptor are made to blend in with that background. There are oranges and tans and bronzes and all these colours we haven't been able to see before, which I'm really fired up about. We'll talk more about what he's saying at the end of the video. You have a few different types of raptors in this movie, from Pyroraptors to Atrociraptors. Do they behave differently? Where the Velociraptors is a little bit more of a stealth hunter, the Atrociraptors are a bit more brutish. These things will just come at you. And in this particular case, they've picked up his scent and they're not going to stop until he's dead. They're pretty brutal, they're pretty vicious. They're pretty atrocious. Sorry. In the process of shooting and editing this film, is there a particular new dinosaur you developed an affinity for? I love the Pyroraptors, I love the Atrociraptors. There's a little one called the Moros Intrepidus, which doesn't do a ton in the movie, but whenever it shows up, I always love it. It was discovered, in real life, only months before we finished our script, and so we were able to really rip something from paleontological headlines and put it right into the movie, which I think is one of the cooler parts of my job. You've had some extra time on this film thanks to its release being pushed back a year. Did that change things? It was an additional 6 months that we got to really work on it and hone it. It gave us an opportunity to focus on how to weave these characters together in the best possible way. A movie like this, with our legacy characters playing as large a role as our modern characters, it's challenging to bring it all together in a way that has momentum and also isn't a 5-hour long movie. It was nice to have the time to make sure that every character is honoured in the way that they need to be. With Sam Neill, Jeff Goldblum and Laura Dern back, is it still a thrill to look up at images of those guys back in Jurassic mode? The moment everybody shows up for the first time together, they're all packed into a jeep, and I took a picture of it and I sent it to Stephen. He got very emotional. I don't think even he was prepared for how moving it would be to see all of those characters that he loves and people that he loves looking incredible and on an adventure together. And finally, Dominion is the climax of not just one trilogy of films, but 2. Have you put every dinosaur-related idea you have into the blender? I think when you see the trailer for this movie, your reaction will be, oh man, he's really going for it. Ha ha ha. And I really am. I shamelessly am going for it with this movie. When you get to this point in a franchise, being able to show people something that they've never seen before, it's a high bar to clear. And I think that we do it in a lot of places. It's completely different to what we've seen before, and yet as it goes along, I really hope people will realise how much it cares about the franchise it's a part of. Nick Dissemleon. And that is about it. So as I say, kind of lacking in new information. I think we were hoping for a new dinosaur reveal, as in an image of a new dinosaur or confirmation of a new dinosaur in some form, but I believe that's meant to be the Atrociraptor, and then the internet kind of got ahead of themselves. I know most people on my Twitter were hoping and expecting a new dinosaur when they'd already kind of revealed the new dinosaur, i.e. the Atroci. So a little bit of a shame. I was hoping for a bit more information. There's not really anything here that we didn't already know. But there is some, nicely worded things and some interesting ways of phrasing certain things, blah, 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 blah. So let's go through it very quickly and actually talk about what's going on. Chris Pratt being chased by an Nasutoceratops. Okay, nothing to say on that one, really. There's a lot of talk here, this one, and indeed this last one over here, where he's talking about kind of just going for it, kind of like having a lot of fun with the film, kind of just throwing everything at the kitchen, throwing the kitchen sink in there, doing all the little dinosaur sequences he's probably always wanted to do in the past 2 films, but it's hard to justify given the storyline that those films were following. Jurassic World had to take place on the island, had to have the park. Fallen Kingdom had quite, especially in the second half, quite a tight story to tell. It was a very small story. It wasn't some big, grand, world-spanning thing. Dominion is inherently the most open the franchise has ever been. We're going all around the world. We're going to at least, we've seen Malta, and you can always see it in the location choices. So we've seen Malta, we've seen what looks to be, I don't know, like Siberian wilderness or Alaska or something like that. My money is still in Siberia. And we've seen a swamp-like environment with Claire Deering and the Therizinosaurus. So already we've seen 3 vastly different environments. Every other Jurassic World film, a Jurassic Park film, has essentially taken place in a singular location. Fallen Kingdom split it into 2. Dominion's at least taking it into 3, probably even more than that. Yeah, so interesting justification for Malta, because, I think because of San Diego, when people envision a dinosaur breakout in a city, they do kind of picture a city breakout. They picture a San Diego, a New York, darkness and all the flashing lights and the cars veering all around the place. Whereas, of course, Malta is a very different thing. It's a very ancient city, lots of ancient brickwork, ancient stonework, lots of tight little corridors and stone cases. Actually, interestingly, because it's not a... Let's say you're going to have a T-Rex breakout or something, or the Giga. In Malta, that might feel a little bit more awkward. That suits San Diego quite well, or these environments we've got in the background here with the drive-in movie theatre, these kind of open, expansive, more modern areas quite well. But if you've got lots of tight little corridors and stuff, and these smaller European cities are very much like that, there's lots of like little alleyways and stuff like that. You'd think that raptors in general, my point really is that these smaller, tighter corridors and small cities suit a raptor chase much more than they do a larger theropod. So Malta makes a lot of sense in that case. He's saying that the colours kind of match, and they kind of, you can see there it's got a slightly warmer tone. I believe this one's called Ghost, and we do have the names for the Velociraptors, but it's, if I'm honest, the kind of thing I could not care less about. The naming of the dinosaurs always irks me, so I've been trying to avoid that, but it seems the other Atrocities will probably be even warmer in colour than this one is here, who's quite light, and, that makes sense given the name. So Velociraptor stealthy, Atrocity, we already knew this, it's kind of just going to be brutal, it's going to charge people down and rip them apart. Cool stuff. Love the Pararaptors, love the Atrociraptors, and then a little bit more. We got up to about here last time, and then this is extra information. So it is cool that they can quickly enough kind of pull something. It's interesting because they did this just 3 months before the script finished. Now, how long were they working on the script? Did they have another dinosaur? So I posited, right, this is actually interesting. I posited the other day that Morris and Trepidus, obviously it's not the same size, but that it was going to kind of take the role of the Compsognathus in this film, and that it was more of a background dinosaur, a little moderately cute dinosaur. And if it's a baby, which we think it is based on the prologue, maybe it'll always be a baby. Maybe we'll see an adult version though. That would be pretty cool. But if it stays in that very, very small size, because it is tiny in the prologue, way too small to be a grown-up. What was I saying? Yeah, so maybe it'll fill that same kind of role. Maybe, given that this wasn't discovered until they nearly finished the script, a few months away from finishing the script, maybe it did take the place of the compy. You'd assume it has to take the place of something. It doesn't seem like it was vital to the story. It doesn't seem like it would have made a big difference what dinosaur it necessarily is. Right, so they focused on getting everything. This is interesting. They've said this a few times. I'm very skeptical of this because of how Ian Malcolm was used in the last film in Fallen Kingdom, where he was hyped up quite a bit in the trailers, and obviously he was in Jurassic World Evolution and all this kind of jazz, and he did all the interviews, and then he was barely in the bloody film. But they've said this a few times, a movie like this, with our legacy characters playing as large a role as our modern characters, suggesting that as large a role, I really find it hard to believe that Owen and Claire would be sidelined like that, because inevitably if you make Ian, Grant and Sattler, as large a role, so they're taking up essentially half the film, you inevitably sideline Claire and Owen at the same time. Now, if it's a long enough film, then that can still work. It's interesting, I'm going to see how they bring it all together. I suspect Dominion will be quite a long film. I'd expect over, I'd say maybe 2.25 hours, something like that. I don't know if we've got a runtime, but this is important. It was nice to have the time to make sure that every character is honoured in the way they need to be. What's a satisfying ending for Ian and Malcolm to you might not be one for me. Is he going to finally get married and find that future ex-Mrs. Goldblum that doesn't become the ex? Is he going to, bring back Kelly, reunite her? Is Sarah Harding going to have a sneak little cameo? I don't know. How do you round out Ian Malcolm's story? What is a satisfying conclusion to his story to you? Because it could be the romance arc. It could be something more about how the dinosaurs are contained and he doesn't have to worry about chaos anymore. It could be a new job. It could be anything. Anyway, so all back. Took a picture of it and sent it to Steven. Imagine being able to refer to Steven Spielberg as just Steven. Or Steve. I just texted Steve. I was like, yeah, look at this photo, Steve. And he's like, oh, he got very emotional. All cramming into a Jeep, which is not an image we've seen before. We have seen the old trilogy group together with Maisie, with Owen, with Claire, with all of them together, and Doctor Wu as well. So he's another character who needs a satisfying conclusion to his arc. There's a lot of characters who need their story to be finished, and you kind of have to do it properly and you have to do it well, because if you're going to have more films in this franchise, which we very much expect, they've already talked about it. I suspect it'll be a whole new trilogy. And I suspect it's quite a long time away, probably 5 or so years plus. But the point is, everyone needs a good finish. Everyone needs good timing. Everyone needs a conclusive story arc, or you'll just disappoint people for years to come, basically. This, to me, is more important than the dinosaurs and than any of the wider plotline going on. It's about finality and ending these storylines in a nice, cohesive way, basically. And, I'm not unconfident it can be done. Have you got every dinosaur-related idea? So yeah, first of all, talking about the trailer, it's happened a lot lately. I really think we're going to get a trailer pretty soon. I thought we were probably going to get it before the end of the year, and I'm less convinced. Yeah, so lots of attempts to show people things they've never seen before, shamelessly going for it with this movie. And this is one of the things I like about Colin Treverrow. I don't necessarily always love his writing, although he did write one of my favourite all-time films, Safety Not Guaranteed. But he is, at the very least, if nothing else, no matter what you think about his films, he is a huge fan of this franchise. He clearly adores and loves this franchise. He interacts with fans all the time on Twitter, which is awesome. Not a lot of directors bother doing that, and he clearly loves the franchise. So what I'm hoping by him saying he's shamelessly going for it is that he's going to bring in a lot of things, I don't know what these would be, but a lot of things we've wanted to see for a long time in the franchise brought to life. There's a lot of scenes, a lot of dinosaurs, a lot of ideas that I think people want to see, and that would feel good for people who are nostalgic about the old Jurassic Park and stuff like that. So hopefully he's going for that kind of thing. Look, and I'm going to end it there. I don't know how I've talked for 18 minutes about this when there's no new information, but I had a lot of thoughts on Dominion, apparently. Anyways, that's it from me. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me know what you think about the interview and indeed Jurassic World Dominion in the comment section down below. What are you most excited about? What ideas do you think are going to happen? What would be, actually I'm very curious, what would be a good conclusion to the character arcs for the legacy characters, which I hate as a term because it's used in football for legacy fans, and it's really, it's terrible, but it's true. Legacy characters, so that's Malcolm, Grant, Sattler, and even Dr. Wu. Let me know down below. I'll see you lovely folks next time. Thanks for joining me. Cheers much love as always. Throw me a like if you appreciate the video, and the slight, I say work to get it online. It wasn't that much work. I had to do a little finagling. That's about it. Thanks for joining me. Cheers much love as always. Bye-bye.
Reaching out.